This is Stephen Colbert, the host of The Late Show on CBS. On July 17, 2025, Colbert made a special announcement.
Well, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
And to Democrats, the timing of this was suspicious, because Paramount, who owns CBS, recently settled a lawsuit with Donald J. Trump. Back in November 2024, Trump filed a $10 billion lawsuit against CBS, alleging that the network deceptively edited an October 7th interview with Vice President Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes to sway public opinion in her favor. And as the New York Post reported, Kamala Harris's word salad responses were heavily edited. In one instance, 60 Minutes took a 179-word answer by Kamala and cut it down to just 20 words. Translation? Trump had a pretty good case. So on July 15th, 13 days after the settlement with Trump, Stephen Colbert, fresh off a vacation, put in his 2 cents.
And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, my mustache comes to you with a heavy heart because while I was on vacation, my parent corporation, Paramount, paid Donald Trump a $16 million settlement over his 60 Minutes lawsuit. Now, I believe this kind of complicated financial settlement with a sitting government official has a technical name in legal circles. It's big fat bribe. Because
2 days later.
Next year will be our last season.
Now again, many on the left found the timing of Colbert's cancellation as suspect, accusing CBS of canceling the show over pressure from the Trump administration. And several members of Congress called for answers. Here's Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts.
I want to talk to you about last night's episode of The Late Show. Stephen Colbert announced that CBS will end his hit show, The Late Show, with Stephen Colbert next spring. This is irresponsible.
What?
CBS is a Paramount subsidiary, and they made this announcement just days after Stephen Colbert sharply criticized Paramount's $16 million settlement with Donald Trump. We need answers. Did the Trump administration pressure Paramount to make this decision?
Senator Markey doesn't explain why it's irresponsible for CBS to end The Late Show, but whatever. Then, Senator Elizabeth Warren claimed that she is investigating Paramount's deal with Trump. Representative Pramila Jayapal wrote, "People deserve to know if this is a politically motivated attack on free speech." And Senator Bernie Sanders wrote, "CBS's billionaire owners paid Trump $16 million to settle a bogus lawsuit while trying to sell the network to Skydance. Stephen Colbert, an extraordinary talent and the most popular late-night host, slams the deal. Days later, he's fired. Do I think this is a coincidence? No." And this is what is called a conspiracy theory. There is no evidence that CBS and Paramount are canceling Colbert's show because of politics or Trump. But Bernie wants to believe it because he jokingly predicted it.
You and 8 other senators wrote a letter to my ultimate boss, the chair of Paramount, warning of the dangers of having CBS settle a lawsuit that Trump has brought against CBS News. As you
now we're going to get you fired, you know.
What?
Maybe this might be his last show.
You know, yes.
However, in a press release, Paramount and CBS wrote, "The Late Show with Stephen Colbert will end its historic run in May 2026 at the end of the broadcast season. We consider Stephen Colbert irreplaceable and will retire the Late Show franchise at that time." This is purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. It is not related in any way to the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. He and the broadcast will be remembered in the pantheon of greats that graced late night television. So instead of facing the reality that late night talk shows are a dying art form, the Writers Guild of America immediately blamed Trump and demanded action. We call on our elected leaders to hold those responsible to account. to demand answers about why this beloved program was canceled and to assure the public that Colbert and his writers were not censored due to their views or the whims of the president. In other words, they don't actually have proof that politics has anything to do with it, but let's hold congressional hearings anyway. The Writers Guild of America calls on New York State Attorney General Letitia James, no stranger to prosecuting Trump for illegal business practices, to join California and launch an investigation into potential wrongdoing at Paramount. So CBS and Paramount canceling a show that they own is an illegal business practice. Makes sense to me. What's your problem? So there are two main reasons that The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was canceled. The first, yes, was for financial reasons. Peter White of Deadline writes, "Clearly, the economics of late night are no longer what they once were. The Late Show, which is thought to cost slightly less than $75 million per year to produce before adding in Colbert's salary, which has been pegged in the mid-teen millions, has been losing money for the network." Deadline understands that CBS also came to Colbert, whose contract was up next year, before this season asking for a cut. Poverty was pled there, one source said. It turns out that The Late Show is reportedly losing $40 to $50 million a year for the network. And what the Writers Guild and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are all completely ignoring is that Stephen Colbert is still going to stay on the air through 2026, which again is when Colbert's contract with CBS expires. I mean, it's not like they were legally obligated to extend his contract, right? Furthermore, if this was political, then why is CBS ending the Late Show franchise altogether? Why aren't they simply replacing Stephen Colbert with someone else? Why are they letting him stay through the next 10 months instead of immediately leasing out the Ed Sullivan Theater to Spirit Halloween? Reuters writes, whether or not politics were at play, the late night format has been struggling for years, as viewers increasingly cut the cable TV cord and migrate to streaming. Younger viewers in particular are more apt to find amusement on YouTube or TikTok, leaving smaller, aging TV audiences and declining ad revenues. Advertising revenue for Colbert's show has dropped 40% since 2018. The financial reality that CBS said prompted the decision to end The Late Show in May 2026. And while Colbert leads his time slot in total viewers, he sits in second place in the coveted 18 to 49 ad demo. That number is down 18% since the same quarter last year. Regardless, you'll hear the left argue that, but he's number one in his time slot. And that may be true, but consider that maybe it's because how weak his direct competition is.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth.
Hilarious, right? I don't know who is worse, Crying Man or the man-child that fake laughs at everything.
Overnight.
Now, the second reason the show is being canceled happens to be a major contributing factor to its financial difficulties and its shrinking audience. The Late Show itself is way too political, and I'm not strictly talking about Colbert's anti-Trump monologues per se. I'm talking about his guests. For example, since the beginning of 2025, Colbert has had dozens and dozens of guests who are either politicians and or Washington, D.C. swamp creatures, and each one of them there in the Ed Sullivan Theater to complain about Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump, mega billionaires like Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
Classic Trump.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump is
Donald Trump. Trump, fight Trump every day.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Trump administration.
Trump's authoritarian tendencies.
Donald Trump is a dictator who must be stopped.
Trump's ties to Russia.
Yeah.
Trump's toxicity. Trump.
Okay, so my point is, if one wants to watch people bitching about Donald Trump, they can simply tune into MSNBC. And they don't even have to wait until 11:30 at night to do it. They can do it 24 hours a day.
Donald Trump and his henchmen, Donald Trump's britches, Donald Trump's.
Seriously, who the hell is making plans to stay up and watch Senator Elizabeth Warren? Not many people, I can assure you. And definitely none of the 77 million people who voted for Trump. Now, according to Puck News, the Colbert team was notified around July 4th that the show was in jeopardy. So what did the Late Show team do? Well, they sprang into action and booked one of the big guns.
Please welcome back to The Late Show, Senator Adam Schiff.
This is what he's after. He wants to make the law firms afraid. He wants to make universities afraid. He wants to make immigrants afraid. He wants to make citizens afraid. He wants to make news organizations, CBS and Paramount, afraid. He wants to make ABC afraid. And he is succeeding. He is succeeding.
Oh man, very funny, very entertaining stuff. Oof. And right there, that's the problem. Because the show is largely driven by politics and obviously leans to the left. Over time, Colbert has alienated half the country. Johnny Carson, the greatest late-night talk show host of all time, warned about this back in 1979.
People say he'll never take a serious controversy. Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that any comedian used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that? But you're not. Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
And it's not that he didn't tackle political humor or anything. He was balanced. He made jokes about both Democrats and Republicans. And most importantly, those jokes were funny. Because Johnny Carson knew that late-night talk shows should be first and foremost entertaining, unlike The Late Show.
Donald, piss off.
I mean, seriously, do you think that even Democrat viewers want to hear people complain about Orange Man bad right before they go to bed? And this applies to the other late night shows. I mean, do we really need to hear Jimmy Fallon's take on Trump and the Epstein files? And maybe if he didn't say that Trump supporters are in a cult, his ratings wouldn't be in the toilet. Ultimately, it's Paramount and CBS's fault because they're the ones that installed a Democrat-leaning TV host into their flagship late-night franchise and allowed it to get super political. But now, they're putting the show out of its misery. Womp womp.
Go yourself.
Classy.